we're going to go over some things that you might not have known. They don't print all the stuff in the newspaper or spell it all over the news media. Now, this is American Survival Guide, September 1996. Okay? The taking of America. U.S. national parks come under the control of the United Nations. The treaty is so vague that any property in the world can be rendered a heritage site if the government committee so deems. The actual property don't have to be a historical site in the true sense of the word, such as the lakes of Ozark in Missouri, or that matter, Yosemite National Park in California. The site can be classified a heritage site and removed from public use. Now, while I'm reading this, I want you to see this. I'll move this over here. I want you to see what they did. I'll zoom out a little bit more so you understand. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park, along with dozens of other U.S. national parks, are now officially an international biosphere reserved area administered by the United Nations Committee, whose authority supersedes the U.S. government. And you looky here. And when they went down there and they took pictures of this, that's in this, they went around and they turned this International Biosphere Reserve, they put it on the back of the sign. Yeah, the UN environmental agenda has been supported and advanced by the Clinton administration. The Ecosystem Management Plan promoted by Vice President Al Gore calls for 50% of the land within the United States to be returned to wilderness. 20 federal agencies are being used to implement this plan, and the EPA is the enforcer. Through executive order, Bruce Babbitt and the Department of Interior in September of 1993 created the Office of National Biological Survey. The survey will attempt to record the location of each species of plant, animals, so on and so forth. This is a bunch of crap. Through UN treaties and government proposals, the American people are being robbed of their most precious freedom, the right to own land. One can only hope that the populace people, once armed with the facts, will rise up and reject these unconstitutional treaties, along with any government body who would propose such a massive threat to the sovereignty of our country. Okay. Now, Pete the Patriot the other day was talking about something, and I thought maybe since I came across this, I should put it out there. This is the Salem News, Salem, Ohio, February 4th, 1999. Mirrors mirror to shine on cities in ex-Soviet Union. They're preparing this dazzling experiment with a space mirror that will send a beam of reflected sunlight flashing all over ex-Soviet Union and parts of Europe. The mirror is supposed to work like an artificial moon, reflecting sunlight back into regions in Russia and so on. The mirror is 83 foot in diameter, will send a beam of light illuminating a spot 5 miles in diameter in each of the designated regions, depending if the sky is clear. Imagine that. Here's something else I know you didn't see. Germans open up a permanent air base in New Mexico. Okay, last May an astounding event took place in New Mexico desert, the corner of the sprawling Holloman Air Force Base near the town of Alamogordo. The German Defense Minister Volker Rune welcomed the U.S. Secretary of Defense and New Mexico government Gary Johnson to the newest home for the German Luftwaffe, the German Air Force Tactical Training Center. As German flags were raised, so on and so forth. Okay? So for the first time since the War of 1812, the United States now has a permanent military installation on a foreign nation operating on its soil. 16 members of Congress, prompted by hundreds of their people, called about the Air Force, and let's see. They're bringing in $20 to $30 million a year. As Germany opens and expands its military bases in America, the U.S. has closed 4 of its 6 air bases in Germany. Indeed, by the end of the decade, if current U.S. military plans are carried out, the United States will have roughly the same amount of combat aircraft in Germany as the Germans will have in the United States. Now that was 1997. Now here it is in the newspaper in 1999. It took them that long to catch up to what was going on. The Salem News, Salem, Ohio, October 7th, 1999. When did the German Air Force start flying over the U.S.? But I saw this thing that said on the Squire, I come across that these planes out there, German planes had attack planes had a training mission, and there was a big crash. As I said, in case you missed it, it's in there. Unless every one of you people should know and understand this. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Edmund Burke, 1729 to 1797. Let's see what else I got here. Oh yeah, here's something else you didn't know. This is in 2002. December 10th, 2002, a U.S. pact allows Canadian U.S. troops to cross borders. Under the agreement, either country can request military help to help the other. American troops can go to Canada, but they may be under command of the Canadian officer, while Canadian troops operating south of the border would be under U.S. command. Okay, now, let's get to something else. You know when we had 911? Let's go to that first. Now this came out like almost a year later, August 22nd, 20. And this is from the Kent Repository. Plane crash simulation was planned for last September 11th. And what the government describes as a bizarre coincidence, one U.S. intelligence agency was planning an exercise last September 11th in which an erratic plane would be crashing into one of the buildings. It was a simulated accident. The agency is about 4 miles from the runway of Washington Dulles International Airport. According to the coincidence. Yeah, that was really a coincidence. Spy drill. Simulated 911 style attacks. An unbelievable coincidence. The day jetliner slammed into the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, a U.S. intelligence agency, was planning to run just such a drill. Ain't that something? Well, somebody had to call NORAD and told them to stand down. Somebody gave that order. The secretive NRO is in Chantilly, Virginia, about 4 miles from the one runway. It's created in 1960 and oversees the nation's spy satellites for reconnaissance and defense. For the first 32 years, the government denied its existence. NR recruits personnel from the military and CIA. Its budget estimated to be equal to the combined budgets of the CIA and the National Security Agency. Wow. Yeah, I'm telling you what, guys, it was a coincidence. Nothing happens by chance. Get that through your head. Because Why did we need that? Because we had to go to Afghanistan. Summit on the Caspian Wealth concludes without agreement. Oil and gas riches of the Caspian region major goal on the war on terrorism. Bush's crusade against the Taliban in Afghanistan has more to do with the control of the immense oil and gas resources of the Caspian Basin than it does about rooting out terrorism. I want you to look at this. They already had this set up. How do you know that? Well, looky here. Here you got Russian President Putin and another foreign administrator consult during a summit on the Caspian Sea leadership yesterday. Caspian oil has taken on strategic importance as Western nations seek alternatives to Persian Gulf. Yeah. You know, that followed the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attack on the United States. Oh. Don't believe everything that these son of guns try to shove down your throat. They were already deciding how to divide the wealth. All of them. Now here's old Judge Roberts. And this was 2005. He's got CFR connections. Anyway, it says our policies must recognize that he wrote this out. It's a New World Order thing that he wrote. I'm in too much New World Order, man. It's so enchanted Roberts, who is now nominated to serve as Chief Justice following the death of William Rehnquist. The new order has defined and sovereignty is conditional, even contractual, rather than absolute, subject to anything by the international community in case the nations international community in case the nations that defy its will. The world of 35 years from now will be semi-sovereign, he says. It will reflect the need to adapt legal and political principles for most needed challenges. During Roberts' confirmation hearing, a senator would ask the prospective Chief Justice what role, if any, he would play in helping adapt our legal system to the global order described in the manifesto written by his friend at the CFR. That's the kind of stuff you're up against, people. Yep. Very Goldwater, yeah. Oh, before I get to this, I'm going too far here, people. One more thing we got to get to. We got to get to this before I run out of time. Why I put that thing up about the United Nations being in control of the national parks? President Trump designates the national park in New Mexico. White Sands becomes the 62nd designated national park after the president signed the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2020. The place is full of gypsum. And then we also have the propaganda law here. And I thought he might do something with that, but no. You got to look on page 326 and 328. It tells you how the propaganda laws work. This was put into the National Defense Authorization Act. I'll put a link in here. Hopefully I have time to do that. But I told him to get rid of it because he's always talking about, oh, we got fake news, we got fake news. Well, it's all there. It's under the National Defense Authorization Act. He didn't act on it. So don't count on him as being your friend.